Good morning, everyone. My name is Adrienne Ackerley, and I am your host today. To help us avoid any unnecessary background noise, may I ask, if you have not already done so, please enter your audio PIN, which you will find on the right side of your screen. You simply press the pound sign, then the number listed, and then the pound sign again directly into your phone. Or, if you wish, you can just simply hit your mute button on your own phone. Welcome to our Energy Engine webinar. Better efficiency and lower costs drive online fuel demand. This webinar is geared to take approximately 45 minutes, as we know that your time is valuable. Once we have completed, we will open it up to a short Q&A section, so please hold your questions until then, or you can simply type them in on the right side of your screen, and we will address them after the presentation. If you notice on the GoToMeeting box on your right side, about 3/4 of the way down, it says chat. Again, just simply type in your questions there, and John and or Mark and I will stay on as long as necessary. John Brable and Mark Stillman are the co-founders of Energy Edge, a management services firm which provides a broad range of services to both energy marketers, as well as companies that provide their products and services to the industry. They are both students of the energy industry who continually study the changing dynamics of this exciting marketplace to help position their clients for the future. Both John and Mark have broad energy industry backgrounds, as well as professional expertise in areas such as finance, business and product development, strategic planning, turnaround work for at-risk organizations, business funding and recapitalization, and executive management. In 2011, at the encouragement of several heating oil dealers, a separate standalone software business was launched. Today, the Energy Engine offers a proprietary turnkey e-commerce and behavioral marketing solution geared towards the heating oil and propane dealer community. Through these webinars, John and Mark hope to share some of the changes and challenges they see for our industry, stimulate a meaningful dialogue concerning these changes, and sometimes even challenge the conventional thinking of the industry. Presenting today's webinar is John. John?
Hey, Adrienne, thank you very much, and good morning, everyone, and thanks for taking the time to join us on this webinar this morning. We appreciate the interest that I know some of you that are on the call this morning have expressed because you weren't able to join the prior session of this webinar. So we're glad to repeat it, to give you the option to attend, and look forward to your questions at the end. So we're going to go through this fairly quickly this morning, so we can cover the topic in 45 minutes, and Adrienne and I will stay on the call to answer any questions that you might have at the end as well. So with that, let's go ahead and get started, and let's talk about the 13-14 heating season and some of the online benchmarks that we've been tracking, to the progress the dealers are making. And our headline is better efficiency and lower cost drive online fuel demand. So we'll see through some of the benchmarks just what companies are experiencing in terms of better efficiency and also lower cost. So let's go ahead and start and kind of let you know where we're headed with these benchmarks and kind of what's going on in the industry. So if I could ask, we're getting some background noise from some of the participants. So if you could either mute your phone, or if you enter the audio code from GoToMeeting, that would be helpful. So we don't distract the other participants. Thank you. So a couple of things in terms of online fuel sales. Our industry, as far as downstream fuel, heating oil, propane, is really about 10 years behind most other industries in terms of adopting the technology for online fuel sales. And we know that, and that's just the fact. Although we're seeing gains here the last several years in terms of companies enabling their customers to really interact with them in a transactional way using the internet. The second point that we're going to develop a little bit further is the new on-demand customer. Now, on-demand customer, we've historically referred to them as a COD or a will call customer, but in the online world, they're really an on-demand customer who really knows what they want. Okay, so we'll develop that thought just a little bit more as well. One of the questions we hope to answer is does online really change the fundamental dynamics of COD and will call? Or does it change the dynamics in the propane market for customer-owned propane tanks? And what are the implications for full-service businesses? We have full-service businesses that talk to us on a regular basis about what we should do with online. Should we be involved? Should we not be involved? How should we be involved? And is all of this good news or bad news for those of us that are involved in downstream fuels? So one of the things we know for sure is our world is changing, and it's changing quickly. And that photo that's up there, you think about all of these things, and you can start to pull your hair out and kind of go crazy. Matter of fact, about 10 years ago, that was kind of the expression that Adrian had, on some days as we were all working to, figure this out and what it meant and so forth. But I can assure you that, with just a little bit of learning, things like, we share in these webinars, life is not all that bad. And matter of fact, Adrian today is just cool, calm, and collected because she's got all this figured out, and she helps clients in the energy engine business to in fact execute. So if you're feeling like that and a bit overwhelmed in terms of what some of these changes mean, I can assure you that it's not that bad. So tongue in cheek, there's all of this online stuff. We can blame it on Amazon. Today, better than 83% of people, do research online before making a purchase. So your customers or homeowners that are commercial customers that are thinking about doing business with you today are searching online for the products and services that you provide. That's where they're doing their research. So obviously you need to be very active online, just providing them with the resources to understand what it is that you are able to provide to them. But after the research is done, we now have better than 80+% of folks that purchase online, that use online to make purchases. And that number continues to increase, and the amount of money that each one of those customers spends every year also continues to increase. And the question is really why? Why do we buy online? Why do we love Amazon? And I admit that I am one of those people that uses Amazon on a regular basis. And it really boils down to one word, and it's convenience. And the same thing holds true, and we're seeing that in the benchmark data as well. Why do customers want to buy fuel online? Because it's convenient. Okay, now that assumes that the price is competitive, and in anything that we do, our price has to be competitive. But the reason why they prefer to buy online is convenience. And convenience, convenience means different things to different people. For some people, it saves time. For some people, they're not traveling to a retail store, or maybe they're not feel like they have to go to your office to sign a form or something like that. They're looking for the convenience of price and fulfillment transparency. Blame it on Amazon again. If you want to shop online, it's very easy to get a price for most services. It's becoming easier every day to understand what pricing is for fuels as well. That pricing transparency is something that is critical for an online shopper. And also fulfillment transparency. Now, what do I mean by fulfillment transparency? Think about Amazon as well. You go online to place an order with Amazon, you have your confirmation while you're online. You get an email that confirms all those details so you have it for your records. Your order ships, you get a confirmation that says, hey, your order has shipped. We expect it to arrive this particular day. If you want to track your order, you click on this link, and it's easy to do. And then after your order's been delivered, you get an order delivery confirmation. Well, that same sort of convenience is what consumers look for as far as online fuel sales. You can get a better selection online, certainly more options online. You can learn more about more companies quicker online. And people perceive the increased value that they get as part of the convenience from shopping online. So all of those things kind of play kind of play into it. And quite honestly, Amazon and some of the other leading online retailers have really spoiled us. I'm actually headed out in just a day or so. Our son's getting married in California this weekend. So my wife and I are headed out there, and realized on 4th of July on Friday that the garment bag that we had that we needed to carry my suit and her dress wasn't quite long enough. It was we needed another garment bag. So I went on Amazon on the 4th of July, a holiday, found what I wanted, placed an order, and actually before I placed the order, told me that that my order would be delivered on Monday, July 7th, which was yesterday. And I said, wow, you know, here I am placing an order on a holiday. Amazon is paying attention. They're going to fulfill that order over this weekend, get it shipped to me for arrival on Monday. And I'm an Amazon Prime member, if any of you are Amazon shoppers or Amazon Prime members, so I get 2-day delivery. And so this, I didn't pay any additional cost for special delivery or anything like that. And I was pretty impressed when I placed the order. I thought that maybe I could get the delivery on Tuesday, but I was surprised with Monday. And sure enough, you know, yesterday morning, it was somewhere around mid-morning that garment bag was delivered as Amazon promised. So even though I ordered on a holiday, the delivery was handled over the weekend, I still got that delivery on Monday morning. So that's how online shoppers are thinking about convenience, and that's the expectation that they have. Online sales are also outpacing traditional retail sales, and this is the case. This is the case for fuel as well. I'm not going to go over all of these numbers, but this highlighted spot over here is the area that you should focus on. E-commerce sales are increasing by double digits and expected to continue to do so. And if we went back for about the last 10 or 15 years, we've had double-digit increases as well. And compared to brick-and-mortar stores, you know, you're getting 4% or so annual increases. So more and more of the purchases are being made online. So let's turn our attention specifically to some of the fuel benchmarks. And the summary comment here is more customers are going online for fuel. So if we look at web search traffic, we look at folks that are opting to go online to find what they're looking for, and they're really saying, by doing that, they're saying no to the phone. Okay, and what we saw this past heating season was web searches, and this is same store web traffic. So same stores out of the network data that we looked at to compile these numbers, these had to be companies that had at least 2 years worth of sales experience. So they had their experience for this past season plus the prior season. So you had a apples to apples type of growth rate. What those companies saw was the visitors to their websites increased by 182%, and unique visitors increased by 136%. So strong triple-digit growth in terms of the number of people that are actively searching online for fuel. Conversion rates. Okay, so you have these people coming to your website and they're searching on fuel, but you know, what do they do at this point? So this year, in this year's benchmarks, we started to look at conversion rates, and this is the first time that we're really sharing them. And these are this is a new metric. So you know, we should look at these numbers and think about it in terms of being directional in nature, not necessarily being absolute, because we don't have a lot of experience tracking conversion rates at this point. But I think it's useful to in fact look at. So if you think about all of those new customers that are coming and searching, what the experience shows across the network is about 5% of those then go ahead and register. Okay, so out of every 100 visitors that you have come to the site, about 5% of them are registering, and about 11% of them are placing an order. So the engagement, one of the key points here is that the engagement on the website needs to be done well in order to keep customers engaged, to have the information that they're looking for, to have the price transparency, to make sure that everything's clean for them, and you set their expectations so that they understand everything. Because where sessions are people, what we used to call visitors and Google now calls sessions, users are those unique visitors, which are really the ones that we want to get to, and we saw on the last page that they increased by 136%. Actually, the conversion rate from users to orders in these preliminary conversion numbers was as high, or actually averaged as high as 20%. So strong performance on conversion there. But again, we should use these numbers as kind of guidance at this point, and not necessarily absolutes, because we just don't have years and years worth of experience with this. But you know, one of the nice things about doing business online is you can virtually measure everything that you're doing. And one of the things that Adrian talks to Energy Engine clients about is the daily traffic numbers. And they see their daily traffic numbers right on their dashboard. Those are actually the predictors of their monthly performance, actually before it happens. So they'll have targets that say, okay, I'm targeting, I need to get so many visitors to my website during this month or during this 30-day period. And every day they can look at that number and see whether or not they're getting that many visitors. And that's becoming a more reliable predictor of exactly how much volume they're going to have by the end of that 30-day period. So those kind of numbers, the power of those numbers make it very easy to manage an online business, or much easier than traditionally businesses have been able to be managed. All right, one of the other benchmarks is volume growth, and certainly we've seen across the network very strong same-store growth. So again, these are businesses that have been in business for better than a year, so that you have that year-over-year comparison, and that's what we're looking at here. In terms of volume growth measured by gallons, the volume growth online was up a pretty impressive 333% this past year. Again, same-store growth. Orders, similar to that, orders were up 337%. Those numbers are actually stronger than it was the year before. The year before, it was still well up in triple digits, just a little bit less than 300%. It's actually a surprise to us that we actually saw that rate of growth increase this year. We figured with the strong growth last year, it was going to be difficult to maintain that. And what wound up happening was the growth that the network achieved was actually stronger this year than it was the prior year. If you build it, will they come? Kind of a a play on the famous quote that came out of Field of Dreams and Kevin Costner. One of the things that we can say as a result of the benchmarks is, if you build a website or if you build an e-commerce site, will the customers come? And in this particular case, contrary to Field of Dreams, the answer is no. And not surprising. Think of it as, if you were to put up an online business, or maybe you already have one that you're running, and think of it as kind of like opening your store for business, but you don't put a sign outside to let anybody know what you do or that you're open. There aren't nearly as many people that are just going to knock on your door or walk into the lobby and take a look at what it is that you do without putting that sign out. Online is very much the same way. Marketing has a very, very dramatic impact on this business. And as we look at individual approaches that companies, online fuel sales companies have taken, even a modest marketing effort has a notable impact. Here's what we saw. When we broke down the network and we looked at companies that were in fact executing even a modest amount of marketing compared to those that really put the site up, and maybe they did some SEO or something like that, but they really weren't letting customers know that they were open for business. They either weren't doing anything or they were doing very, very little. Here's the difference. companies that were doing at least some marketing saw 4.4 times as much traffic coming to their site. They saw 7.2 times as many people register and sign up and say, I'd like to do business with you, and experienced 24.6, almost 25 times the gallons as companies that were doing either none or very little marketing. So marketing is having a very, very dramatic impact on the success for companies that are engaged in online fuel sales. The other question is, and we get this a lot, as a matter of fact, when we first started talking with companies, or we had companies come to us a few years ago that originally asked us about online marketing just based upon our prior experience doing it, they said, hey, can I acquire customers? Can I really build my business by having an online business or approaching customers digitally? The answer to that question is yes. And I have a quote up here, and actually I heard this from one of Adrian's clients just last month, where he was looking to acquire, he was looking at two different companies to acquire. They were companies that did a combination of full service as well as on-demand deliveries for customers. And both companies were for sale. And I happened to talk to him one day, and I knew that he was looking at these companies, and he said to me, he said, John, he said, I decided not to do the acquisition because, he said, I realized that I could capture customers cheaper myself by just expanding my online business into the territory where he was looking at doing this acquisition. So that hit me right square between the eyes. I had never thought about using online, in that method, but this particular guy's had very good success with online in his current service territory, and actually made the decision not to acquire the company because he could actually use that online capability to go into that new market and acquire customers cheaper than he could by doing the acquisition. A couple of numbers here in terms of benchmarking. As far as new customers, our clients, again, that are doing at least some marketing, typically wind up with somewhere in the neighborhood of about 500 new customers in year one. Depending upon how they're approaching the marketplace, they'll get to 1,000 customers either in year two or maybe year three. And the other point that we've already made, but these clients also understand, is marketing is critical to doing that. And we're not talking about spending huge budgets in terms of marketing by any means. And we'll talk even more about that during this presentation, or certainly during the Q&A. We can talk more about that as well, because marketing in the digital world is extremely, extremely efficient. What type of marketing are these companies using? They're using the online marketing tactics, things like search engine optimization, search engine marketing, which some of you may know as pay-per-click, where you can set very modest monthly budgets and have everything targeted. Social media is becoming much more a part of business marketing. Certainly e-newsletters, just sending out useful information to their customers via email. It's extremely, extremely effective, for these clients, and very, very reasonably priced. You can actually, we have clients that we see, have an idea for a newsletter, and and some of them just have a resource that they call up that'll put together their idea into make it look nice in an e-newsletter and get it sent out, and doing that for less than $100, certainly less than $200 to get that done, distributed and everything. And if you think about the way we used to have to do something like that via direct mail or to put a newsletter out, we had to minimally 30 days in advance. You had to write all this copy or somebody else's copy. You had to get it printed, take it to a mail house, pay postage rates to be able to get it delivered. and 30 days later, hopefully the information that you were sharing with your customers was still useful for them. Now you can, with e-newsletters, you can decide to have an e-newsletter in the morning, have it in your customers' email inboxes by the afternoon, and do it for, like I say, less than $100. We have clients that we see doing it for that amount of money, or less than $200. Certainly is very, very reasonable. There is still some offline marketing that is being done, but it's actually becoming less and less. We still see some companies that are having success with newspapers. We probably see more companies that are pulling any spending that they're doing in newspapers because they're just not seeing the effect of this. Yellow Pages, that used to be the place for people to go to find companies, not anymore. And the Yellow Pages recognize that as well. If you had a Yellow Pages rep call on you, lately they're not really talking about display ads in the book, although they'd love to sell you display ads. They're really talking about how they can help you with your online marketing. Direct mail, we still have some folks, we see some clients that are using direct mail for some very targeted approaches, maybe like win-back campaigns that are effective. We're seeing some companies do co-op direct mail from providers like Valpak, or in some of those areas they're getting good results. But that's more the exception than the rule. Typically, where most of the spending is done is the online marketing. It's very affordable and actually very easy to execute as well. What's the marketing spend? Promise that we talked just a little bit about this. Budget levels that we see companies spend, and we don't have, this is not precise data. It's really approximate data because we don't, not all companies share this with us. So this is think of it as anecdotal data, but pretty good in terms of these budget levels. Consistency is important. It's important your customers, especially customers that are doing business with somebody online. They want to hear, they want to know what's going on with their online provider. My Amazon experience, when I was looking for that garment bag, I looked at a couple of other things along the way. Sure enough, this morning I had an email from Amazon, just suggesting that I might be interested in some other products based upon what I searched for, what my behavior was when I did that search and ultimately bought the garment bag, but looked at some other things at the same time. That behavioral type of marketing is extremely useful for online marketers, but more appropriately for this slide is that relationship that I build with Amazon, because Amazon knows what my needs and my interests are, is extremely important. So consistently getting information, and Amazon will share information with me on a consistent basis. So I know that Amazon does in fact know me as a customer, values me as a customer, and helps me to locate the things or the services that Amazon provides to me. In terms of online fuel sales, we have clients that we have in the marketing that we say, hey, they're doing marketing, they're spending as little as about $300 per month. I would say the average client is less than $1,000 a month, certainly less than $2,000 a month. We do have a few clients that are spending beyond that, but they're more aggressive. What I will say in terms of that greater spend is none of our clients have said to us, hey, we've started to experience a negative ROI on our marketing investment. So think of it as spending $1 on marketing and getting $2 in return. That's the type of impact that the marketing is having. And even those that are spending greater than $2,000 a month, which is the exception at this point, are still getting a return on that investment. So even they don't know, kind of how high is up or how far they can drive the business by doing appropriate marketing. But most of our clients start out, just spending small and figuring that out. And certainly we can point you in the direction, and Adrian does that on a very regular basis with clients in terms of, helping them to understand what works in marketing and if they don't already have those services available, where they can find them. And Adrian tells them regularly, just follow the roadmap, follow the marketing roadmap. We know it works. But marketing spend for online fuel businesses can be very, very, very modest. All right. Does brand make a difference? If you're launching an online business, the brand that you use to launch that online business, does it make a difference? And the answer is actually yes. Where we get this question is typically with full-service companies that have a good full-service business, and they know that they want to participate in this on-demand segment of the market, but they're afraid if they put their heritage brand, their legacy brand, on their online business, that they'll get some customers that'll leave their full service and go to online. It's a valid fear, and this isn't. This is one of those topics that we wrestled with ourselves a dozen years ago when we were doing this ourselves. And the fact of the matter is that you do not get full service switching to any meaningful degree, because full service customers buy full service because they want full service, and they realize that they're paying more for full service. So they're not going to switch to online. But as part of our benchmarking, we looked at companies that are using the heritage or the legacy brand versus companies that have used a new brand. And there are a couple of things that seem to be coming through this data. We're still a local business, okay? And you've spent a lot of money over the years developing your brand in your marketplace. And customers like to do business with local companies in this particular industry. So local is still a great part of this business, and that needs to come through on your online marketing strategy as well. And customers like to make a connection with you. It's a business. You have trucks going to that customer's home to make deliveries for a very vital service that keeps them warm or keeps them comfortable in their home. So they want to make a connection with you. To the extent that you use your heritage brand that you've been selling under in that market, maybe for multiple generations, you've been using that brand. New customers will in fact value that. And let's look at the benchmarking data. Companies that have used the heritage brand to launch their online business compared to companies that have used either a new brand or even a hybrid brand experienced almost 4 times the traffic to the site. And that's kind of, you would expect that. If it's a heritage brand or a known company, it's easier to get traffic off of search engines or some of the other techniques if companies or if customers already recognize the brand, the name that you're operating under. So you get more traffic. But then look what happens in terms of registrations. You have 4 times the traffic, but you got almost 7 times the registrations, and you got almost 17 times the gallons. So brand does in fact make a difference. And like I said before, the fear of full service switching, customers switching from full service to on-demand online, is an unwarranted fear. It doesn't happen, and we've seen that ourselves, and we've seen it in other case studies that we have in fact done. And any of you that have further questions on that, you can drop us a note or give us a call. We'd be glad to talk about that as well. It's a very, very common question that we get. Price transparency is a must. Like we said up front, customers want to know the price. Matter of fact, if you're accustomed to receiving telephone calls, especially if you're already serving the on-demand segment of the market through a COD or a will call business, the most common question that you inevitably get from phone callers is, what's your price? Well, not surprisingly, the most frequent heating oil search phrase also includes in that phrase the word price. Okay, so customers are in fact thinking about that just like they have been when they've been calling for years. Online customers expect pricing transparency. So certainly if you're selling fuel online, you need to be transparent with your price. Matter of fact, we have heard customers say that, if a company isn't showing their price, they must be hiding something. They must have a high price, and they just don't want to put it on their website. Less than 10% of fuel dealer websites today have pricing transparency. So I guess two comments that I'd make is knowing what we know now from this webinar so far, as an industry, we're not serving the needs of our customers very well because they're expecting price transparency and they're getting it in other industries. But they're not getting it to the extent here in this industry as they would like. And at the same time, it creates a very distinct opportunity for those companies that are in fact providing pricing transparency, because that's what the customers are looking for. If you have a new customer that's searching for a heating oil company, say, and they go online and they do a Google search and they have 10 search results on that first page, they're much more likely to do business with that company where the company was confident enough to show their price online rather than dealing with a company that is not showing price. That's just the nature of the world that we live in today. All right, one of the other benchmarks around online fuel sales has to do with improved delivery efficiency. This was one of the surprises that we found going back many years. Excuse me. Going back many years as far as average drop size for an online order, and we've been tracking that. We've been tracking that for better than 10 years now. And what we saw this year was that the average drop size for online orders actually did go down. Went down to 168 gallons, so it was down a few gallons from the prior year. But that's still 21% larger than offline orders. So that 168, and the most recent number from the industry is about 139 gallons per delivery. What winds up happening is that online delivery becomes a much more efficient delivery for you that has a positive impact on your fleet operations. Matter of fact, the impact of drop size alone actually effectively reduces your fulfillment cost for an online order by between 3.7 and 6 cents per gallon. So you have less cost in making an online delivery of 3.7 to 6 cents a gallon based upon average drop size alone. So, just one of the areas where selling online actually costs you less. One of the areas is average drop size. Online orders cost less to fulfill in a number of different areas as well. And that graphic that's over there to the right, you may not be able to see on your screen. That's fine. We can, if you have more questions in terms of where some of the costs are greater, and this top part actually identifies some increased costs for online orders, like credit card processing, because now 100% of your sales are made by credit card. But it also lists the lower costs for online fuel areas, and you see average drop size. If you can see, that is the one we talked about on the last page, that 168 gallons. And just to comment on average drop size, that 168 gallons has come down. The reason why it's come down is we're having we're seeing more and more companies offer lower minimum deliveries, minimum order quantities. Where historically it was 150 gallons was the minimum order size in virtually all markets across the Northeast. We have clients that that are readily offering 125 gallon minimums, 100 gallon minimums. In some cases, we have clients that are even offering 50 gallon minimums. Now they're charging a higher price for 50 gallons or even 100 gallons, but their minimum order quantity has declined, which is driving down the average drop. And they've identified it. I remember one client I talked with was setting it up, and he wanted a 50-gallon minimum. I said, why do you want to do that? And he said, well, I said, I actually identified a nice little market niche in my area, where it's landlords who, as they're renting, one of their units, they want to have some oil in the tank, but they don't want to fill the tank for the new tenant, so they'll just buy a 50-gallon order. So in that particular case, that client runs even lower than 168 gallons, but he gets paid for it on the delivery side. And that's actually one of the things that's much easier to control, actually very easy to control in the online world, because based upon how many gallons the customer gets delivered is what they get charged. So one of the myths that we hear sometimes, and I heard this in a meeting inside a company just a couple of months ago, said, if I sell online, I need to raise my price to cover my credit card fees. And I say that's a myth because while 100% of your orders processed via credit card does carry a larger expense, you actually have several offsetting savings to that that kind of debunks that thinking that we hear occasionally. And we know that the increased cost from credit cards, and if you can't see this over here, that's fine. The increased cost for processing 100% credit cards increases your cost by about 3.9 cents a gallon. However, you have offsetting savings that come from not having any bad checks of 3.3 cents, not having redeliveries at just a little bit less than a penny, and we have, in some cases, we still have companies out there that are extending credit for on-demand customers. They seem to be the exception now compared to that. But so we don't have any dollars attached to that there. But if you're doing that, you have additional expense from bad debt as well. But essentially, the savings from no bad checks and no redeliveries, where your customer said that they were going to be home to pay, and you went out there and there was nobody there, so you spent that $30 to get that truck and driver to that home, only to have to do it again the next day. You don't have those redelivery expenses in the online world either. So so those two together, offset any credit card increase. Plus, you have the other savings from online. In total, online orders cost about 10 cents per gallon less to fulfill than a traditional phone order. So you have about a 10% or 10 cent per gallon savings. The other comment I feel obliged to put in here at this point is selling fuel online is not all about price. We do have some clients, as much as we talk with them about this, that say, hey, I can save 10 cents a gallon by selling online, so I'm going to pass on that 10 cents per gallon to my customers, and I'm going to have a competitive advantage. We don't encourage that to be done. We think it's reasonable to pass on some of the savings to customers, because customers, expect a bit more of a value if they're buying online. We historically used 2 cents per gallon if a customer bought online compared to calling us on the phone. We gave them a 2 cent per gallon better price. We still suggest that to our clients, maybe 3 cents, since oil prices are where they are today. But we have, we don't expect, as a matter of fact, we would counsel against passing on a 10-cent savings to online customers. Remember, customers buy online for convenience. Okay, so if you provide them with the convenience of a robust platform, you give them everything that they want on the platform, you give them good service, you set their expectations in terms of pricing. If you give them a couple of pennies a gallon, you have that competitive advantage in price, and you also have the competitive advantage in terms of convenience. So, don't pass on all those savings, to the customer. You should enjoy the value that you're building in your business, and take some of that money and reinvest it into your continued growth. All right. We're just about getting to the point of wrapping up here. One of the questions that we get often is, when will I break even with the investment in my online business? And the answer is, it really depends. It depends upon, when you started your marketing. Did you have a good marketing plan, or at least a reasonable marketing plan? Was I committed to the business? And this is kind of an important one. I'm going to pause on this for a second, because we see some cases where a company will get into the online business. They'll get everything set up and so forth, and maybe it was the owner that was actively involved and he kind of saw the vision of this. But then once the business was set up, he got distracted with all the other things that he needs to do in terms of running the business, and forgot about just minding the store as far as the online business. We suggest to everyone that you have a commitment to the business, and you have someone in the organization that's accountable for the business. And it doesn't have to be the boss. It doesn't have to be the owner. Matter of fact, a lot of times it's better to have somebody else in the organization that's responsible for the online business. We've seen that work very, very effectively. But the point is that there has to be a commitment. You need to be watching the business. You can't forget about it. It is a new business, so you need to give it the attention that it deserves. And then the other thing is you have to be price competitive. And notice I didn't say you have to have the lowest price. That is not the case. You need to be price competitive. If your market's at $3.49 for on-demand deliveries, and you're out there at $3.69, you're going to get fewer orders. But you need to be in the neighborhood. So you need to be price competitive. So back to the question as far as the metrics. When will I break even? We have seen the breaking even, actually the financial point, is somewhere less than 200 orders breaks you even as far as launching your online business. Matter of fact, we have some companies that actually break even at just about the 100 order mark. So it doesn't take a lot of orders to break even the investment. The fastest that we've seen a client do it was actually in their second month of online operations. So it can be done very quickly, and that was a case. Remember I said up here, it depends when you're going to break even. In that particular case of 2 months, he had some marketing going for his existing on-demand business, and as soon as he had online, he immediately switched everything that any customer saw anywhere or any prospect saw anywhere, from a phone number to his web address. And immediately got customers going online to make those same purchases that they had previously been calling for, because again, the customer values the convenience of being able to engage with you online. All right, so in summary, from our benchmarks, yes, our energy world is changing, and in a lot of respects it's changing very quickly. Homeowners are looking online for what you're selling, and they're looking for it online at an increasing rate. There are more and more of them that are doing it every year. The new on-demand customer knows what they want. This is a customer that's become accustomed to going online, finding what it is that they're looking for, being able to determine the price, what the price is, understand when they're going to get a delivery, add on other services to that delivery, if they need it. So this new on-demand customer has they become accustomed to buying online for what it is that they want, and they're also buying a la carte. So when I bought my garment bag, I have a Prime membership, so I got 2-day delivery. Because I needed to get it here on time before we left for the wedding. If I needed it faster than that, I could have ordered next day delivery. And if I wanted a service agreement on something that I'm buying from Amazon, I can add that on. But Amazon and most other companies disaggregate those bundles, but they allow you to build the bundles based upon what it is that you need. The same thing holds true for fuel. They buy fuel, but they can add other things to it along the way. We encourage you to think Amazon, and really the secret is convenience, competitive price, and good service. And certainly one of the things that this industry has historically done is provided good service. Got that delivery to the customer in a short period of time, made that delivery safely, made it environmentally safely, Think Amazon if you're doing online. The added benefit of convenience is extremely important. And, of course, we all know we need to maintain a competitive price in order for customers to want to do business with us. One of the questions and one of the discussions that's taking place is, does these online sales, do they change the fundamental dynamics of COD and will call? Or if you're in the propane business, does online play a role for customer-owned tank accounts? And we think, yeah, we've seen it because we've been involved with online sales for so long that it does change the dynamics. Certainly you no longer have COD customers because you're not taking any cash on delivery. You're dealing with electronic transactions. The customer isn't doing, they're not doing will call because they're not calling you. They're actually going online to place their on-demand orders. So in that respect, the customer is engaging with you very much differently than they have in the past. And also the fundamentals of the business. One of the other comments that we've heard is that the industry, rightly or wrongly, there's been a reputation of that discount oil company kind of being the rusty trucker. And what we see happening is that that's no longer the case. That we see high-end, full-service companies that are now getting into the on-demand business and doing it with it online because the image is different that the customers see. They want to go online. They want to deal with a company like that. So we see some fundamental changes taking place there in terms of the image that goes around on-demand as well. If you build it, marketing will get them to come. Made that point before with Field of Dreams, that you need to do some marketing, but also our takeaway is marketing is affordable. With our average customers, our average clients spending somewhere in the neighborhood less than $1,000 a month for their marketing, some of them that are doing it consistently as little as $300 a month. So internet marketing is extremely affordable and also very measurable, so you can see if you're getting your return on the investment. Online fuel sales also have an impact on company efficiency. Certainly your fleet, it lowers costs for you, and it adds new customers. So we're seeing that consistently through the benchmark data for the last several years, actually, as long as we've been building the benchmarks. What are the implications of online for full-service businesses? We talk to more and more full-service businesses that have said, hey, I know I'm giving up volume because I haven't been addressing that on-demand segment of the market, that on-demand segment of the market. I've just been providing full service, but we see more and more companies now that are getting into that on-demand segment of the market via online for some of the reasons we mentioned up above. But also, from the standpoint of a full-service customer, if you're looking at an online customer, they understand that their service level is different. They understand that they're going online themselves to buy. So they're self-serving themselves. They know that they're monitoring their own tank level, so they're getting the benefit of a degree day algorithm and that predictive delivery. They may not have the ability to add other things to it. They may not be able to go on a budget plan. They may not be able to get a service contract. That varies a little bit based upon the company. But the point is that online customer realizes they're getting a different service level than that full-service customer. And the full-service customer understands that as well. They know they're paying for that premium service, and they expect to pay more for that. So online is a clear differentiator between an understood service level difference between full-service and online, so it works for the full-service company. And finally, is all of this good news or bad news? I guess it depends which side of the coin that you look at. Certainly our experience with being in online for ourselves for about 9 years, we found it, although we struggled at the beginning trying to figure out what needed to be done, ultimately at the end of that period, we were still growing the business at the rate of 50% year over year and had more and more customers that were driving online. So we thought it was, we thought it's very good news. We believe it's good news for the industry as well, because it has gives you the opportunity for customers and homeowners in general just to feel better about doing business. If they want to do business, online, it is then becomes an industry that is in fact serving their needs. Is there any bad news? I really don't think it's bad news. I think what some companies think or may interpret as bad news is they see it as somewhat complex, and it really isn't complex. It's really much easier, and I've been involved with building businesses my entire career. It was much, much harder when the internet wasn't available to help build a business. But some companies look at some of the things we've looked at in this webinar and say it's just hard, it's complex. And it really isn't. And one of the things that we work with is to help point clients in the direction of resources or folks that know how to do this and do it well and do it at a reasonable cost as well. So there's all sorts of help that can be added on. So it really isn't all as complex as it is. And once you get the hang of it, it's really one of the easiest businesses to be able to manage. So with that, we wrapped up the webinar. If I can, let me get back to this. Sorry about that. Get back to our Q&A. I'm going to go ahead and turn the webinar back to Adrian, and we'll certainly glad to take any questions, comments, discussion, and certainly even if you disagree with us, that's fine. We're glad to talk through some of the things that you're thinking. So Adrian, back to you.
Thank you, John. As usual, we do have people who have requested copies of your presentation, and as long as you don't mind, I will forward that over. If you haven't requested it, keep in mind I will be sending out an email to each and every one of you, thanking you not only for attending, but if you have any questions, here's our contact information. So if at that point you'd like a copy, you can just request it then. Okay, John, first question. We're a full-service company, but I'm still not sure how we would do online sales.
Okay, the full-service companies, they've approached it. We've seen full-service companies approach online fuel sales a number of different ways, based upon the benchmarking and the metrics. So what we saw, and this was one of the later slides, was does brand make a difference? And yes, brand does make a difference. So our guidance would be use your heritage brand for your online business. And as I mentioned just a second or two ago, the customers also understand the difference in service level that they get between online and full service. So they understand that pricing difference between the two as well, but it's not an issue for customers on either side. We would suggest full-service customers going into the segment of the market and wanting to, rather than just losing full-service customers who make a decision to go on demand, is actually offer those customers that are looking for a different service level the option to have that. So you can, in fact, save customers from just going to another company. At the same time, you can attract new customers from the marketplace as well. Full-service companies often are in the best position in terms of the strength of their brand equity in the market, because many of them have been around. They're the ones that are the 2, 3, 4 generation family businesses that are known in the community. And launching an online business certainly moves them into the, as customers would say, the 21st century, gives the customers the convenience that they want for customers that want to do business with you that way. Not everybody will. With full-service companies, we would say brand, use your heritage brand. To address the online segment, do it online. Don't do it by phone. That only adds cost at this point, and there's no reason for you to in fact, start that way. Make sure that your pricing on both sides is competitive, to your marketplace. And the other thing that we would say in terms of full-service companies, and we recommend this to everyone, is you'll probably have 2 websites. You'll have websites for your core website that you already have, and then you'll have a new website that should link from your full service site. Because as you do these searches, or as customers do their searches, you're going to have some customers that wind up on your traditional website, but some of those people are actually going to be looking for on-demand. So if that site only talks about full service, that customer is just going to exit and you're going to lose them. So you're going to want to talk about your online convenience for those customers as well, and they just click on that and they link right back over to your online site so they can do everything that they want there. At the same time, you also have customers that wind up on your online site and they say, I really don't want to do that. I don't want to monitor my own fuel level. I want you guys to do it for me. So you want to be able to link them from your online site over to your full service site. So the customer, you want to make it as easy as possible for that customer to get where they're going. One of the other things that happens with online businesses is you wind up, well, not in all cases, but if you're an energy engine client, it happens. You wind up developing a sizable email list, actually 3 different lists: lists for prospects, lists for registered customers, and lists for customers that have placed orders. Those lists certainly are very important in terms of the operating of your online business itself, but if you're a full service company, we've also had full service clients who have used those online lists to upsell to some full service programs. So this time of the year, you may be resetting your budget program. You may be soliciting new customers for budget for the upcoming season. We've had clients very successfully use their e-commerce lists to send information out that says, hey, we now have our budget program open for sign up for the upcoming heating season, and you wind up taking customers that had been buying from you online on demand, and now you've moved them to full service budget. We've seen the same thing done with service plans, with regular maintenance, with other upsells. We've companies that are in the electricity business that want to use their online to cross-sell to competitive electricity if they're doing that as well. So I know that's a long answer to a relatively short question, but online fits quite complementary with traditional full-service businesses.
Okay. How about marketing for online customers seems difficult and expensive? Is it?
I guess my comment on the last slide kind of anticipated that question that may have come in with somebody before we got to that. It really is not. In a webinar like this, it might seem a little bit overwhelming. Oh my goodness, I need to learn about search engine optimization or pay-per-click or some of the other things that are new to us in terms of marketing. It's less complicated than trying to figure out how much money you spent 5 years ago on your yellow pages and whether or not you were getting the results. It's much easier. It is new, so you need to learn it. More often than not, companies ask us about the marketing. One of the things that Adrian has available to her are several companies that that we've vetted that are good at what they do with digital marketing, and at the same time they're affordable. And the third thing is they also know, in our particular case, they know the energy engine, how to work with it, how to manage content on it, and so forth. So sometimes Adrian just does an introduction between a client and those companies, and they're really the experts. I mean, I've been working with online for a bunch of years now. I'm not a search engine optimization expert by any means. Pay-per-click, the same thing. I know how it works. I know the questions to ask. If you ask me to execute a pay-per-click program for you, I tell you to save your money because I inevitably waste some, even though I've been around it that long. So you don't have to become an expert in these things. Matter of fact, it's difficult to be an expert because it changes so quickly. Google changes things. The other search engine changes the way they do things. So you kind of need to stay fresh with this. So we just suggest hey, use, maybe you already have a firm that you're working with that it's good in what they do. That's fine. Use them. Use them as the experts. If not, we can refer a few folks to you that we're very comfortable, referring because they're good and they're reasonable and they know what the heck they're doing. And let them be the experts for you. And along the way, you'll learn a lot, but you don't need to do all this yourself.
Okay, great. The other questions you seem to have already answered. So with that, I'd like to thank you, John, and thank you to our attendees for taking the time for this webinar. Like I said before, you will be receiving an email from me with instructions on how to request maybe a more personalized demo or how to contact us should you have any additional questions. So again, thank you for your time, and I hope everyone has a great day.
Thanks, everyone.